We pondered a lot of questions coming into round 6, and I think most of them got answered. Most of all, 7 out of 9 in the tips. I hope you enjoy. Here is the round 6 review with the 10 talking points out of the weekend.
Back on the ground. Here's a chance for Akers. He's fired at a goal and he's produced an absolute gem.
If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I'd really appreciate it. Trying to hit 1,000 before grand final day, so I would really appreciate your help. The Supercoach video is coming out earlier this week because the work laptop, which is what I record my Supercoach content on, is going to need to go in for a service on Thursday. So it'll come out really, really soon. Only hours after this has come out, so keep an eye on that. It was not a good week, so you'll be doing much better than me. So everything that I do the opposite of, and you'll be sweet. And I did a footy quiz and really enjoyed it, and no one's fucking watched it. So go watch that, because I want to do more. It was fun. So check that out. That would be great, but let's get into it. Now, this isn't what I think a few people are doing in terms of social media, is talking about Leon needs to be fired because he's not a good coach. That's not where I come from at all. I think Leon has been a good coach, but the message has been quite repetitive for a decade, and I'm a big believer in, if you can't win a flag in 8 years, move on. Just move on. And that seems kind of harsh, and I know we've seen coaches stick it out for a long time, but 8 years without a flag, you either got to give up the group or give up the coach. And it's a lot easier to give up the coach. I think Leon would do a good job at another group. I don't think that should be straight away. I think he should settle, like all coaches that get the sack or eventually quit, but let's face it, most of them get sacked. Take some time away, improve on other facets of your life, because you've got to give so much to footy. And then if he's ready to come back and coach again, I think he'd do a really good job. But considering all these clubs that have got new coaches have been getting sugar hits, as the media would describe them, the Giants have crashed, like badly. Psychologically, they don't seem in the game. They've got this talented midfield that just aren't gelling at the moment. Why you would keep all of Kelly, Taranto, Hopper, Green, Canelio, Ash, and I'm not saying all of them have got to move on, but why they're all there and you can't play Jake Riccardi, who's not working out. Jared Brander is not at all forward. Harry Himmelberg is not good enough to be a number one banana, and Jesse Hogan is needing to be managed. That means that stuff's not working. So you are eventually going to have to part with one of these guys, and the guy that I didn't name there was Tom Green. If he's the one that's got to go, they're essentially going backwards again. Now, Tim Taranto is going to be hunted in free agency, so that could be something to look at, but they just look really bad right now. Defensively, they're not running as hard as you should be, and that shows that the absolute willingness to put your heart and soul on the line may not be there as much as it's been in previous years. New message, new invigoration, and new belief is exactly what this group needs. I do feel for Leon, but sometimes you've got to call a spade and call it as you see it. And the way I see it, the Giants are not functioning that well at all. For the Saints, I did say that I wasn't going to tip them out of disrespect anymore. I actually tipped the Giants. This was one of the games. I actually got the first and last game wrong and then got the others right, which was fantastic. But the reason why I tipped the Giants is I felt like this was Leon's second grand final. And the first one was for the first flag. This one was to keep his job. So I thought if I backed the Giants in and they got up, it would be a good springboard. But the Saints, they were fantastic in the second half. Loved what they did. And Jack Higgins was fantastic. Great win for the Saints. They're the real deal in terms of making finals. The Giants, they're nowhere. 11 disposals, 6 of them contested, 3 tackles, 3 clearances, and a behind. That's a pretty handy half of football, you would say. If a player's getting that, even if they're a midfielder, that is a really solid base to build on. Those stats were Ben Keays' last quarter. Yes, quarter. This man is a star, underrated star. He is the epitome of heart and soul. He beat the Bulldogs midfield, which, by the way, is their strength. The only part of the field you could plug in and go, this is elite. And he beat them. Rory Laird beat them too. But although Keays kicked 4 behinds, he had a chance, I think, to give himself like 5 Brownlow votes. I know that's not how it works, but that's the quality of performance he was putting together. I think the Crows need an abundance of credit for the way they've started. They look fantastic. Billy Frampton, Jordan Butts, they're doing good things. Rory Laird and Keays, that really works. Matt Crouch is not really working with time on ground, but that's a good concern to have. And Jordan Dawson, it looks like he's picked the right group to go to at the moment. Full credit to the Crows. And yes, Taylor Walker is a dick, but credit where credit's due. That was a really good set shot goal. And Caleb Daniel, that's not really what we're looking for, Helmet. And we've got to be a bit better than that. For the Dogs, like I said, their midfield were just poor. Really poor. And around the ground, they're not that good either. I'm glad they lost, because if they had have scraped over the line, it would have papered over some cracks. But putting Band-Aid on something that needs surgery is not the way to run a football club at all. And I don't know what the answer is. Fair to say this was about time. And Port, I mean, they couldn't really win otherwise. If they had lost this game, Ken would have been marched out the door anyway. But because they only beat West Coast, then they don't get credit for it. But 14-goal win, you'll take that any day of the week, as we know. Jeremy Finlayson and Todd Marshall, 5 goals each. The two most out-of-form forwards for them. And Ollie Wines, when he and Boak are really the 1 and 1A of that midfield, they needed other guys to step up. And Connor Rosie's last fortnight has been outstanding. And it needs to continue. It can't be, okay, Wines is back, then we just go back to Wines, Boak and Amon, who was dropped in a late in and had 25 and kicked a goal. But we'll talk about that another day. So that's kind of where Port are at. They need to keep experimenting, keep getting good rotations through, because when it comes to finals, if they make it, whether it's this year or next year or whatever, they cannot line up every centre bounce in the last quarter with the game on the line with Boak, Wines and Amon and no one else. Keep getting Rosie in there, keep getting Butters in there, keep getting Powell Pepper in there at times. He is the heart and soul of that group. And for the Eagles, you're going to get a top 5 pick. And if I was them, I would be keeping an eye on the midfielders, either Elijah Sidus, I hope it's pronounced, George Wardlaw. These are the guys that they should be looking at, because their midfield, they're fragile at the moment. Poor Elliot Yeo, who got concussed. Josh Kennedy, I think, might be regretting coming back and playing this year, but a good win by the Port. So when Nat Fyfe was hoping to play round 1, there was a lot of debate on what his role was going to be. Now, was it going to be forward? And you think when he comes back into the team, hang on, they've got Schultz, Switkowski, Akers is even playing a high half-forward role at times. Walters got into some form. Okay, maybe we don't need him forward, but we can get him into that midfield. Look at the midfield of Cripps, Hewitt, Kennedy, Walsh. Look at these guys. We're going to need Fyfe in there. It's fantastic. Do you? Andy Brayshaw, David Mundy, Caleb Sarong, Will Brodie. Just beat that midfield, albeit without Matt Kennedy, but they beat that midfield. This is a Fyfeless Freo, and they're playing extremely good footy. And it's not that I'm saying Nat Fyfe shouldn't come back into the team. It's that when he does, they're only going to get better and better. And if they do go backwards with Fyfe there, that is actually a bigger problem than we want to give credit to. Because if this system is working and a player isn't working in it, they need to assess what happens next. But Fyfe back in that team makes everyone better. For the Blues, look, they had injuries. It was a hard road trip, and I know that's not an excuse because WA clubs have got to travel all the time. I don't think they're coming out of this game panicking, but Mark Pitney is only being valued as a loss by the media now that he's out, rather than giving him the credit of when he was playing. He was the number 1 hit out to advantage ruckman going into round 5, and I think he was equal second coming into round 6. It is a huge loss. He's been awesome. The Blues, they'll lick their wounds. I think they can still, turn it around, and they're still a good team, and they're there in the hunt for the 8. So we'll see how they go. But for Freo, I'm not sure they're a contender yet, but they beat Geelong down at GMHBA. I'm buying them as a flag threat. So the only videos that have really cracked 1,000 plus views for me so far in the length that this channel has been going is draft stuff. And I really like the draft, talking about the draft and all that. So here is my letter to North Melbourne. If you draft a midfielder, you are saying fuck you to the fans and fuck you to your own list management. Now, I made a video, one of my first videos, which, sucks because that's how I was when I make videos, and I'm sure there might be some of you watching this thinking I still do. Good luck to you. But Will Phillips over Logan McDonald or Denver Granger Barris now is a serious conversation. But look, Phillips was your guy. That's fine. Why did you then draft Tom Powell and Charlie Lazaro? Why did you take, Josh Goder in this draft and you didn't take Bazzo or Jack Williams so you could develop? Okay, you've got some forward depth, maybe, with Sherry and Coleman Jones, but they're ruckman, they're not pure centre-half forwards. And key backs, you've got McKay and Aiden Core. No, you still need a centre-half forward, because Nick Larkey's your full forward, and he is outstanding as a talent. And if you lose him at any point, you're screwed anyway. But you need a centre-half forward, and you need a centre-half back, and you need to draft them this year. Don't trade for them. Don't get bad ones in free agency. Draft them, develop them ASAP, because you are miles away. And for the Cats, it was the percentage boost they needed. Cam Guthrie got back into some form, and Joel Selwood's still playing some good footy for a bloke that's about 83. So, well done to Geelong, I guess, against really bad opposition. Brisbane can just beat you forward of centre in so many different ways. Zach Bailey kicked his 6, won the Marcus Ashcroft medal, and it's so deserved. He was fantastic. Charlie Cameron kicked 4. Joe Danaher kicked 3 in a really, really cool battle with Sam Collins for most of the day. But when you've got guys like Rayner, who only kicked a goal, Lincoln McCarthy only kicked a goal, who else only kicked? Dan McStay only kicked a goal as well. So they weren't fantastic, but hit the scoreboard. All their midfielders hit the scoreboard. This was just further proof that if there is a challenger to Melbourne right now, Brisbane, Geelong and Sydney are just heading up that pack magnificently, with Freo and St Kilda clipping at their heels. But Brisbane, what you're getting away from this game is just further proof that it is only between the ears that is stopping you from winning a flag. And for the Suns, I thought they were okay, but you've got to be better than okay in order to beat a great unit, which is what Brisbane have been this year. And Matt Rowell got back into some good form, which is good. But I also want to give a shout out to Jared Witt, who right now, if there was a rolling All-Australian team, should definitely be the second ruckman now that Tim English is out. So if Gawn is 1, Witts is 1A. Let me just start with Melbourne, because they're so far ahead of the pack, it's not funny. They can find different ways to win, and for some reason they chose kicking points more than goals early to win, which is interesting. But let's move past the Ds. Look, they won, they're superstars. What more can you really say? For the Tigers, now, this isn't a case of, the dynasty's over. It's not like that at all. It's Richmond took their 5 picks from last year's draft, used them all. They've got draft capital for this year. I think they're going to get more, and they're going to go with it. The Robbie Tarrant experiment, it hasn't worked in terms of winning a flag, but what it is going to do is develop Josh Gibkiss a hell of a lot quicker, who is such a talent, it's insane. Dylan Grimes hasn't played, of course. They've got some injuries. They're not winning the flag. Stop it. They're not winning the flag. But what they can do is intermittently get more games into Thompson Dow, Riley Collier Dawkins, even Shea Bolton's still young, although he is the cream that goes on top of the cake. What this is doing is propelling Richmond's rebuild and not doing what my Hawks did in 2017, which was go down the bottom of the ladder, and instead of accepting that and rebuilding, Hawthorn went and tried again. It didn't work. Richmond, don't try again. Get the games into these kids, because there's good kids there. Jack Ross as well. Looks like he is a good young player. Get more draft picks in the door, keep developing them, and go from there. And the legacy of the current premiership players, especially the veterans like Rewalton, Edwards and Cochin, is developing Richmond's next premiership team. And you know what? That's okay. These guys have got trophy cabinets that we'd all dream of. Sydney have no positional weaknesses. They've got tall defenders, and my heart breaks for Paddy McCartan. It really does. But all the talk from Sydney's been positive, so they've got the key pillars. They've got small defenders, Dane Rampy. They've got rebounding defenders, Lloyd, Blakey. Okay, cool. You go to the wings. Oh, we've got Ollie Florent and Justin McInerney. Oh, yeah, they'll do. What about the midfield? Oh, Tom Hickey went down. Yeah, Peter Laddams is playing like Dean Cox 2.0 in the last fortnight, albeit not against great opposition, but still, good way to work yourself into form. And he's tapping it down to Callum Mills, Luke Parker, James Rowbottom, and Josh Kennedy was the sub. Tick. Ben Ronk's been pretty good in the last few weeks. Okay, tick. Will Hayward is his third hybrid tall. Tick. McLean, McDonald and Franklin played in the same team and were okay, but a team that still kicked over 100 points. Tick. And Tom Papley's not in the team. Holy shit. The Swans can win the flag. Sorry, they just can. They are a contender, and it's fantastic to see. This is a blend of veteran experience, youth, full exuberance. They're awesome to watch. Get around them. And for the Hawks, they got a footballing lesson. Once the damn wall broke, they couldn't fix it. They're a young team, but I said it on the Talking Hawks live stream. I'll say it here again. There are too many senior guys that aren't pulling their weight. And on the weekend, Chad Wingard had 12 touches. James Warple had 11. Jarman Impey had 2. Jack Gunston and Luke Bruce struggled after quarter time because the ball wouldn't get down there. I can accept kids not playing well. Senior guys not playing well is a bit harder to swallow. But full credit to the Swans. Barring the first 16 minutes, they were outstanding. Darcy Parish had 41 disposals, of which more than 30 of them were handballs, and he didn't have 10 metres gained per disposal. Sounds a lot like Tom Mitchell during his Brownlow years to me, so why isn't Darcy getting talked about like Tom Mitchell was by media and fans? That seems a bit hypocritical to me. Now, can Darcy Parish win a Brownlow off this? Well, Titch did, so who knows, but this isn't me bashing Darcy either. I think his role is fantastic, and feeding the ball out to Merritt and McGrath is only going to do good things. I would love for him to take that extra step, swivel the head, and hit more targets by foot like he did more of last year. But he wasn't Essendon's problem today. But it's just a little bit hypocritical how we looked at a Brownlow medalist versus a guy who's effectively had 28 good games for his career. And one of them gets hated, and the other one got a little bit ignored in this. Like, I thought he was really good, but he wasn't great. I don't know what it is. Is it a once-off for Darcy? Who knows? We'll keep an eye on it, but this was really strange. And the Dons, I thought they played better than Collingwood. 4 decent enough periods in which they should have taken advantage, but the Pies, when they got on top, they kicked multiple goals at a time, and their accuracy ensured them the win. Collingwood were the better team on the day, but I think the Bombers are walking away from this going, I think if we played them 3 more times, we could beat them twice. And Jack Ginnivan, I don't understand how this man is hated. We need personality in footy, and he's got bucket loads of it. He is so good for the game. Hey, all Australian selectors. If you do not pick blokes in their best position this year, we are going to boycott the event and stop taking it seriously. We have excellent wingmen in Ed Langdon, Isaac Smith, Hugh McCluggage, and more that are tearing up the competition. We've got good half-back flankers, and you honour them. We've now got good half-forward flankers who have played roles. You look at Brad Hill's role, I'm not saying he should be an All-Australian, but his role as a high half-forward was really, really good. Jack Higgins, there is an argument for him being a forward pocket or a half-forward flanker, dependent on what half of footy it is, because he has played a high half-forward role. Dylan Moore has had an excellent year. We've got half-forward flankers that are doing really well in this game. Put them in their position. If you are not one of the best 6 or 7 midfielders in the competition, you do not get a blazer. It is that simple. Take this, run with it, or stop calling yourself the All-Australian team, and all you are doing is giving us the 22 best players in the league according to you. And we've already got that. It's called the Brownlow. Give the players the respect for the positions they're playing. Jack Higgins picks up the 3, and it's actually 8 votes he's picked up in the last month, so good on Jack. Rory Laird actually eked out Ben Keays, but I loved both of their last quarters. Connor Rosé picks up the 3 votes for his new role, and Todd Marshall gets rewarded with 5 tackles along with his 5 goals. Andy Brayshaw gets the 3 with Cripps 2 with his 3 goals and 32 disposals. This man is just a genuine freak. Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins get votes there with Joel Selwood, the meat in the sandwich. And good to see Cam Guthrie in some decent form. Zach Bailey won the Marcus Ashcroft medal, and he gets the 3 votes here as well. And shout out to Took Miller. You got to play well in a 52-point loss in order to get a vote. Gawn was good, but let's face it, no one could have gotten the 3 whose name wasn't Clayton Oliver. And a shout out to Ed Langdon as well, who played very well. Nick Vlosten for the Tigers. He mopped up everything down back, although the ball did live down there for heavy periods. Callum Mills now has the most individual points for a performance this season in Supercoach with over 200, and in my system where he picked up an insane 59.5 points, the most by any player this year. Peter Laddams and Luke Parker were genuinely outstanding as well. And of course, Jack Ginnivan won the Anzac Day medal, and he did actually end up with the 3 votes in my system as well. And as we go to the leaderboard, we have a tie. Who'd have thought it? Patrick Cripps and Andy Brayshaw, they're stuck on 11. Look at that. Ben Keays and Clayton Oliver each on 10, with Callum Mills and Jack Steele a full game back on 8 votes. But that's it for round 6, guys. Supercoach video coming as well. And check out the footy quiz if you haven't yet. It wasn't my best effort, but hopefully the next one I get is going to be perfect. I hope you enjoy your week. Stay tuned with the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.